cholesterol, or more specifically, atherosclerosis plaque, which is primarily made up of immune cells jammed up with cholesterol, is blocking up your arteries, putting you at risk of heart disease. This is not a contentious issue. It is a fact. But where does the cholesterol come from? Well, from the blood, of course. This is why we go to war against those cholesterol-carrying particles. Not so fast. Join us for this episode of Better Body Chemistry TV as we look inside those blocked arteries. What we find is game-changing. Better Body Chemistry TV is brought to you by Dr. Sandy, a scientist turned gremlin buster, helping you battle sugar gremlins, hair lumps, and other health horribles through better body chemistry. Remember, small things can make a big difference to your health. So the current story goes something like this. The more cholesterol-loaded LDL particles that are circulating in the blood, well, the higher the odds they have of slipping into big blood vessels, prompting a frantic mop-up by hard-working macrophages. The macrophages work like crazy, trying to save the day, and they do, kind of. They mop up all that cholesterol, but it is a suicidal mission. They transition from being macrophages to foam cells, from being an active cleaner-upper to an engorged laggard, to deadbeat, bunging up the works. And then, as they die, they release the cholesterol they have so diligently squirreled away. The cholesterol flood becomes another macrophage's problem, and so it goes. Initially, this awful scenario plays out deep inside the blood vessels. At some point in time, the whole lot blows. The plaque ruptures, clumps of congealed up cholesterol spew forth. If the clump is big enough, and it often is, it lodges in a blood vessel, starving that blood vessel of oxygen, and you have a problem. But let's go back to the beginning. We'll start with locating the block. Here is a cross-section through a blood vessel. The blood cells flow through the hole in the middle, or the lumen. This is where we imagine the block happens. But the actual location of the problem is not on the edge of the blood vessel. The problem is layers and layers below. It's actually at the border between the little layer of muscles that whip the blood around and the edge of the border that separates the blood from the body. Now, these layers all have fancy Latin names. The muscle layer is the tunica media, and the border layer is the tunica intima. For the record, there is another layer after the muscle layer. This one is made of fibrous tissue and fat. It's called the tunica adventitia. Here is the story in an actual tissue sample. The black arrows show the location of the border between the tunica intima and the tunica media. To make it easier to see, the researchers stained the lipids with a red dye. The point, it's not a surface problem. So what? Well, have you seen what cholesterol travels in? It's an enormous particle made up of fats and proteins and cholesterol. This blob of blobs has to cross around 30 or more layers of cells come matrix to arrive at that point. The crossing must be fast and seamless. You're on the border, then you're on the other side. There is nothing in between. Teleporting LDL particles? Sounds a bit far-fetched. LDL particles won't teleport. But this is what we're told happens in atherosclerosis. Hyperprotein particles drifting around in the blood, going about their business of making deliveries, specifically cholesterol deliveries, spontaneously move across the blood vessel border, drifting through 30 layers. And once there, they proceed to become damaged, necessitating a cleanup by the immune system, which, for the record, also dig their way through 30 layers of cells. Aish. It doesn't make sense. This cannot be the full story. So what is the real story? Well, let's start by looking at what these big blood vessels look like when you're little. When you're little, all three layers are there, but the inner layer is skinny, really skinny, 1 to 2 layers thick. So the LDL particles would be able to cross in a jiffy, but they don't. All sorts of protective layers keep them in their place. As you grow bigger, so do your blood vessels, specifically the intima tunica layer. By the time you get to 15, it has thickened up to be about 10 to 15 layers thick. You keep growing, and so does your intima tunica. So by the time you're 30, it's now about 30 layers thick. Now, 30 layers thick is the sweet spot. It's thick enough to do the job of ensuring blood moves around seamlessly, but not too thick that the cells at the bottom go hungry. You continue aging. So by 40, it's 40 cells thick. And at 50, it's 50 cells thick. Actually, I'm joking. If all is on track, the layer should not get any thicker. Unfortunately, if you have bad body chemistry, the layer has a tendency to expand. Now, the fact that it gets thicker is not in and of itself bad. The cells divide because they feel compelled to. The impetus for their division is fixing damage. The trouble is, more cells now need feeding. So to keep the more cells going, a plan must be made. And the plan involves growing new blood vessels. But hooking up a direct line across the 30 plus layer of cells making up the tunica intima is fraught with difficulties. So lines are sent from the other side, from the tunica media side. It's a quick and easy solution, but it is a dirty solution. You see, the cells on the border were never designed to have blood vessels. They're meant to be avascular, that is, blood vessel free. Being avascular, they're not by their nature very mindful of how clean and tidy their matrix is. So dotted around are matrix proteins, such as biglycan. Now, these matrix proteins are magnets for LDL particles. So as the new blood vessels come online to feed the additional layers, blood leaks have unintended consequences. LDLs begin to stick. Macrophages see the sticky situation and intervene, firing Ross tasers at the stuck LDL particles, encouraging them to move on. The trouble is, being tasered with a reactive oxygen species causes the serious damage to the LDL particles. Battered and bruised, things go from bad to worse. Cleanups are required. And before you can say, Bob's your uncle, there is a protrusion deep inside the blood vessel, and it protrudes into the lumen, interfering with blood flow. And at some point in time, the whole lot blows. The plaque ruptures, clumps have congealed up, cholesterol spew forth. You know the rest of the story. And it's this story you want to avoid, which is why you're doing what you can to avoid cholesterol. But cholesterol wasn't the cause of the trouble per se. So the war on cholesterol, although laudable, is not going to fix atherosclerosis. The fix is to manage the expansion of the tunica intima. Now, a good place to start is to rein in insulin. For tips and suggestions on how to do this, download the Willpower Report. It's free. And begin the journey today to creating better body chemistry and better health. Interested in discovering more ways to create better body chemistry or need a little help with your body chemistry, visit our website at www.betterbodychemistry.com. Browse our library or enroll in one of our courses or programs. The advice is simple to follow and based on real science, not hype. Know someone who is at war with cholesterol? Share this video with them so that they know their enemy and can fight smarter. And if this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe to our channel so you catch future episodes of Better Body Chemistry TV. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Remember, small things can make a big difference to your health.